We now go on to the DD2 Masters final for Saturday, and here is your starting grid. So, Dennis Thurm from Germany and Nicolas Picaud will be on the front row of the grid, with Nikolai Christensen and Thomas Piet rounding out the top two rows. Luca Filipponi and Michael Becker will be on row 3, with Christophe Capitain and Yannick Nielsen rounding out the top 8 rows. Dmitry Ostrovsky and Timo Haug, both from Germany, round out the top 10. Christoph Adams, Karl Klebor, Lennart Schreiber, Dominik Hummels, Jiří Salaitis, Igor Mukin and Andreas Neumann round out the 17-strong grid. As per the DD2s earlier on, it's a 15-minute final, as it will be Thurm and Picaud on the front row. The drivers now make their way out of the final corner into the tram lines. Revs start to rise, lights are out, and the DD2 Masters final on Saturday gets going. Good start by Dennis Thurm. Nicolas Picaud looking up on the outside. Thomas Piet looking up the inside of the Frenchman going into turn 2, but Picaud holds his ground. Becker now up into, as we have had a little bit of a drama, very briefly. There is a Birol ART cart at the back off of turn number 2. That might be possibly Dmitry Ostrovsky. It is starting to get a little bit feisty at the front end of the field. Nikolai Christensen, I think, has just gotten up into 3rd position. So Thomas Piet is currently down in 4th position. Picaud being hounded by Christensen in the early goings as we complete lap number 1. It's side by side a little bit further back. Timo Haug and Christophe Capitain were side by side across the line. As Christensen sweeps a little bit, well, enters into turn number 6 a little bit wider than the 3 in front, a little bit further back behind Michael Becker. I think there was a little bit of a send, possibly on Karl, well, it wasn't on Karl Klebor. I think Karl Klebor might have been doing the sending, and he's got past Christophe Capitain. So the 502 from SP Motorsport makes his way a little bit closer to Michael Becker, who still holds on to 5th position at this time. It was Dmitry Ostrovsky, as there is a move from Yannick Nielsen on Thomas Piet, who gets the switchback coming out of the final corner. Michael Becker's waiting the wings to see what happens. So Becker down to 6th position. Karl Klebor in 7th ahead of Christophe Capitain. Timo Haug and Dominik Hummels round out the top 10 positions, followed by Christoph Adams, Lennart Schreiber, Igor Mukin, then we got Luca Filipponi, Jiří Salaitis, Andreas Neumann as... Oh, now that was a late lunge into turn number 7. by Yannick Nielsen on Thomas Piet. Michael Becker now trying to see if he can get through. And at the moment he can't. Very brightly coloured comp kart chassis. Becker base not too far outside of Motodrom Hagen. Basically it's in his neck of the woods. As Becker looks up the inside of Piet, they nearly come to blows. And Clebord gets compromised. That's allowed Capitan to get through. You see, even in DD2 Masters, they like to get their elbows out. And a little bit further behind, that is the 575 of Timo Haug trying to get through on Karl Clebord. Becker's got through on Piet. And Karl Clebord trying to get through on Christophe Capitan through turn 4. Stumbles over the inside curbing. Christophe Adams is also trying to make sure that he has a little bit of an inclusion into this party, which is the elbows out kind. And Piet up the inside of Christophe Capitan. There are positional changes like it's going out of fashion. Top 3 have started pulling away. Dennis Thurm did have a 6.5 of a second advantage. Now it's down to just under 5.5 tenths as Pico sets the fastest lap of the race. Capitan goes up the inside of Karl Clebord heading into turn 2. The Frenchman makes the move stick. Haug is waiting in the wings, so is Hummels. Adams not too far adrift either. Now Filipponi looks to send it up the inside. He got a move done. That was on Dominic Hummels through turn 10. Neatly done by the 582 from Belgium. So we still have just under 10.5 minutes plus an additional lap still to go. Thurm is still keeping a very healthy lead, as in it's stabilising at the moment ahead of Pico. And still, all 17 drivers are circulating, including Dmitry Ostrovsky, who at the moment is about 16 seconds off of Germany's Andreas Neumann in 16th place. But Dennis Thurm at the front end of the field is controlling proceedings as things stand. Pico, Christensen, then it's the 507 of Yannick Nielsen, who started 8th, now runs in 4th. Michael Becker holding station in 5th, Thomas Piet, Christophe Capitan, Karl Clebord, Timo Haug, and Christophe Adams now hits the top 10. So Adams getting past Luca Filipponi in the meantime. Dominic Hummels, Leonard Schreiber, Juris Salaitis, Igor Mukin, and then we've got Andreas Neumann and Dmitry Ostrovsky. That is how things currently stand at the moment. With 8 minutes and 38 seconds still to go. The fact that the top 3 were covered by 9 tenths, it's still 9 tenths. It has stabilised somewhat, but Luca Filipponi has just put in the fastest lap of the race. He might be down in 11th position, but he is only fractionally behind Christophe Adams. Well, he was fractionally behind Christophe Adams until Timo Haug stuck his nose in on the 575 Paralin entry. Christophe Adams, fresh off of taking a victory over in Portugal just last weekend. Had a brief chat with him earlier on. I think it was I think it might have been either Thursday. No, it was Friday actually. Had a brief chat with him about it. So congratulated on his efforts over there. as Timo Haug now gets overtaken by Filipponi for 11th position, coming into the final corner. Now we're at the halfway point of this race, and still it's less than a second covering the top three at this time. So the gap between the top three now extends to just under 1.1 seconds, but Pico is still keeping a hold of the fastest lap of the race so far. Filipponi, in the meantime, has gotten through and now is in 9th place, ahead of Adams. So Adams was in 9th for the briefest of moments, and now he's coming under fire from Timo Haug. And just behind there is Dominic Oels in the 577. In the meantime, Christophe Capitain and Thomas Piet now are heavily embroiled in battle, and Carl Clebor is the one with the ringside seat. And Clebor now sends it up the inside. Great anticipation, but he outbrakes himself a little bit, going a bit too deep into the corner. And that allowed Christophe Capitain to retake the position rather quickly. Yannick Nielsen has been closed in on by Michael Becker, who is gunning for 4th position. And there they are, going through into turns 1 and 2. Four minutes 40 plus an additional lap to go. 4 more races to conclude today's action here on day 1 of the 2023 season. Becker just trying to wait and bide his time. Once the opportunity presents itself, then Becker will be there. He has had his fair share of dramas in previous rounds of the BNL Karting Series, most notably having an incident going into the 12th and final corner, one particular race which bent the back axle. So he had the same sort of dramas that Nicolas Guillaume had in the race that has just transpired. Gap is starting to extend between first, second and third. It was at 1.9 tenths of a second. It is now nearly 1.3. Filipponi currently in 9th position ahead of Christoph Adams, who he's nearly 2 seconds ahead of. Filipponi in the 582 has put in the fastest lap, 54.494. Leader's about to come across the start-finish line very shortly. Well, that's going to be, first of all, Dennis Thum. And his lead was just under 8.5 tenths of a second. It's now just over a second. 54.555 from the German. Pico, 54.758. Christensen. Oh, and that's a great move up the inside of Thomas Piet by Christophe Capitain. That is for position. Most notably, that is for 6th on the road. Carl Clebor is there or thereabouts. He's also got Filipponi not too far behind him either, as the 502 from Belgium. further up the road from Christophe Capitan. It looks there is a little bit of 2 and 8 going on between Nielsen and Becker. They're still battling away over that 4th place. Piet now trying to hold on as Klebor looking to thread the eye of the needle and try and get through. He needs to do so Filipponi doesn't have a chance to attack him. So he's got that €64,000 question to answer right now as Karl Klebor. Do I attack or do I defend? And at the moment he's holding station, but Filipponi thinks otherwise. Up the inside he goes on the 502. Klebor runs a little bit wide coming out of the corner, and Filipponi's through up into what is now 8th position. So we head into the final minute and 3/4. Shout out to Loris Koisman on the YouTube chat. Yep, see you next week for the Euro Trophy. Looking forward to catching up with you then. 1 minute and 35 still to go. Dennis Thum has been on top form so far in this first half of the race weekend. Did the business by putting it on pole position in qualifying this morning. Took the pre-final convincingly and looks to do the same, get the clean sweep to start off this weekend in the right way. So, including this lap, we will have another 3. So we have just over a minute on the timer remaining as Thomas Piet has just lost out, and that is to Filipponi. So Thomas Piet, it either goes really, really well or something goes awry. A little bit sideways from the Praga going into turn number 5, the back end stepping out to the right-hand side. That's what you don't want, that if the kart is going sideways when you're either trying to apply the power or you're rotating the kart into a corner, it is not the fastest way of going around a circuit. Back in the old days it used to be, but not now. It's all about, and again, the back end stepping out to the left-hand side, that could allow Karl Klebor to maybe spring a surprise through turn number 12. And Andreas Neumann and Dmitry Ostrovsky have both retired from the race. Jurisalaitis rounds out the 15 drivers that are still running. We're now on to our penultimate lap, lap 17 out of 18. As Becker still trying to find a way past the 507 of Yannick Nielsen. But the driver from Hagen unable to make that move happen. He's got this plus another lap still to go. He's not close enough to try and do a late break move into turn number 7 off of the Europlan as Becker. Nielsen is just hitting the marks as required. Braking when he needs to, turning it in, hitting the apex, powering out of the corner at the right moment. As the timer hits 0, last lap board is being shown to Germany's Dennis Thum in the 517. Now to Nicolas Picot and Nikolai Christiansen. Yannick Nielsen still holding off Michael Becker at the moment, but it's coming down to the wire for those two. Becker was not that far behind. He was less than 2/10, so he was in that window of opportunity to slingshot past the Dane going into turns 1 and 2. Can he do something through turns 6 and 7 into the Europlan? Not 100% sure, but if he gets a good run, he wasn't really close enough, was Becker. He looks over his left shoulder to see that Christophe Capitan is not too far behind. But our race leader now making his way through turn number 9 for the last time. Through turn 10, through turn 11. And it's going to be Dennis Thum gets the clean sweep. Won't get the fastest lap of this race, but he's done what he's needed to do. And he picks up the victory in the final here on Saturday. Second place goes to Nicolas Picot from France. Nikolai Christiansen takes 3rd. Then it's Yannick Nielsen and Michael Becker who round out the top 5. Luca Filipponi takes 7th ahead of Thomas Piet, Karl Klebor and Christoph Adams round out the top 10. Timo Haug, Dominic Hummels, Lennart Schreiber, Igor Mukin and Jurisalaitis round out the 15 that finished the race on lap 12. It was a retirement for Germany's Andreas Neumann and Dmitry Ostrovsky retiring on lap number 9.